All right, and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro Podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and thank you as always for joining me on the show. Today we are going to dive in and talk about the timing of death, because I think with the experience of the pandemic, we have all had death come knocking closer and closer and closer, some more than others, but it's really a question of what determines the timing of death. How many opportunities do we have? And I say opportunities, how many exit potentials do we have? Why is that? How does it work? I've had a lot of questions like this the last while, and they're all very valid questions. So that's why I wanted to kind of highlight this topic on a podcast so I have more time to explain it, because it's very, very relevant for our time right now. There's a lot of people questioning and considering, why is it that they are still here? Why is it that somebody else isn't still here? Why would someone choose to cross? Who or what decides the timing of crossing, and all of those kinds of things. So that's really what I want to kind of tackle in today's podcast. So let's start first of all by explaining and examining the idea of exit points, okay? And then we will move from there. So first of all, with exit points, when we are creating our blueprint on the other side, before we come into this lifetime, we create basically, sometimes there can be one specific exit point. Most of the time there are many at different stages in someone's life, depending on the lessons that person will have probably learned up until that point. And so in someone's timeline, if I use mine for an example, I had an opportunity of an exit right when I was born. I was born premature, and I could have exited at that point. There was another opportunity where I was almost hit by a bus, and I think I laugh, but I think I caused my mom a heart attack that time, but that was an opportunity in which I didn't choose to take an exit point. And as many of you know, obviously I had my near-death experience, which was a very clear, conscious knowing exit point potential in which I chose to come back. So that's an example of different exit points. Now, some people can have several exit points in a small amount of time. I see this sometimes when somebody crossed and say they got hit by a car and it happened so fast. When I connect in with their spirit says, well, you know what? I was meant to be going. I was not meant to live a long life. Had it not been this car accident, something would have taken place in the span of about 2 to 3 weeks in which I would have had this opportunity to exit. So sometimes somebody's exit point is really determined in a time frame, right? Like say during the wintertime, this person will take one of several exits available. And those several exits available are given because free will can, not always, but can alter the timing of an exit point. So if we talk about free will now in connection to a timeline of multiple exit points, free will can change it sometimes by just a simple decision, not even a conscious decision of altering an exit point, but a simple decision of, you know what, I'm actually not going to run to the store. I'm just going to make something from my cupboard. And by not running to the store, takes out that potential of, say, getting in that car accident or having some unforeseen event happen that leads to your exit, right? By making that simple decision, which is free will, do you want to run out and get groceries or do you want to stay home? Changes that potential, which then moves it into the next highest probable thing, right? So that's how sometimes they can be altered. Another way that they can be altered within a singular, like a specific timeline, like I'm talking about several exits in one. Sometimes some spirits can actually reach that crossing point and slightly half on the other side or on the way to the other side, they can say, you know what, can I just have a little bit longer? Can I just have a little bit longer to stay on this planet to experience A, B, or C? And so that person will then come back for another, say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month or so, have a few more experiences, and then cross over. That's another example of free will, but a little bit of a deeper free will in which the person is slightly in spirit already at that point when that decision is made. Now, if I come back to my experience of my near-death experience, I had free will as my spirit self, though, in deep connection with this human self that's talking to you today. So it wasn't just my higher self saying, hey, I want to come back. It was the full spirit of this self on the other side deciding to come back. So those are kind of like the different layers of how free will can work, because it's not always as simple as just simply, I don't want to die, therefore I'm not going to die. Okay. Because if we move on from this pocketed, allotted amount of time for an exit where multiple exits can happen, there are then sometimes those finite exit points. And those sometimes can be someone who, say, for example, had cancer and they beat cancer, and then cancer came back somewhere else in their body and they beat that. And then they got hit by a car and they survived that. And then they're outside one day on a step ladder and they fall, hit their head and die from a step ladder, right? The tiniest, simplest of things, and they pass. That passing would most likely have been their final exit point, meaning an opportunity would arise for this final exit point to happen to take them out at that time. And that would be designed by the blueprint. Now, is there still maneuverability sometimes within that? Yes, because I will say yes, because spirit is never always black and white. It is never just, this is exactly how it is, period. There is so much maneuverability in each action. So I will say that, but to try and simplify it, there are some exit points which are potentials, and then there are some exit points which are more finite, meaning you're pretty much on your way out in that regard. Now, with that, COVID was a really kind of a perfect opportunity for people to take exits based on their higher self if they so wanted. Now, I had talked about this in a podcast kind of when COVID started, I think, or maybe 1 year into it. I can't remember exactly when. But I talked about how Spirit had told me that everybody through COVID was going to be given this metaphorical ticket. And each person had to punch their ticket to see if they were going to stay or go, to choose if they were going to stay or go from this experience. COVID gave an opportunity for many souls to exit. And I'm purposely saying it that way. That doesn't disregard the pain of losing people, but it gave an opportunity for exit for a lot of people. Some, that opportunity was given because they had finished their journey on earth, and that was one way in which they could go. Others, it was about creating awareness of what was going on, and they were willing to be a part of that awareness based on the fact they'd accomplished a lot in their lifetime. And they were like, you know what, it may be a shorter lifetime, but I will better serve humanity or my soul's journey by being on the other side. Now, there are some cases, though, where when someone gets to an exit potential, it may be that they are wanting to keep living. Their higher soul would like to keep living, but the physical body has deteriorated too far and can't be repaired. And now, with that being said, some people would say, well, what about miracles? What about miracle healings? That absolutely does happen. There are some cases, though, where that doesn't happen and the soul would desire to stay, but the body has broken down too far and it is beyond repair. Why some people get that miracle healing and some people don't is still something that is beyond my reach of knowing. That's still a piece that is so up to fate, up to higher things that are beyond my reach. I don't know why that happens. I mean, I've read stories of people who have been, their organs are shutting down, their bodies are shutting down, their muscle tissue has been kind of eaten away from the disease that they have. And then all of a sudden they go into spontaneous remission and their body starts rebuilding when they had maybe hours to live. And you think, why does that happen? Whereas somebody else who their body isn't as badly broken, they can't come back. There are so many factors involved in that decision point. Again, it's hard to say it is A or B, black or white. There are many factors. So that's why I'm kind of trying to explain the different ideas and different factors pertaining to it. So there are absolutely miracle healings where the soul is like, no, we are going to come back. We're going to make a difference from this physical body. We will show the body's ability to heal. There's a benefit. Oftentimes that's for people who are going to then step up and share their story, speak out about it, help spread information, insights on the body's ability to heal. If that is not in someone's story or their desired soul outcome, sometimes the soul will say, you know what, it's not worth healing this body. Let's take this exit. Okay. Now, also, I want to say I have spoken to a lot of souls, though, coming back to this idea of being able to help better on the other side. I have spoken to a lot of souls throughout this experience of the pandemic who have come back and said, I realized, from a soul level, so not necessarily the human, but the higher soul level, it wasn't worth my journey on earth anymore to experience this pandemic and where the world is going, what the world needs to move and change through. It's not in my highest benefit to be there anymore. Number two, I am still so passionate to help humanity that I wish to be on the other side to help them from there. And the way that they can help from there, and this is what I've seen, which has been beautiful, is the souls that have most recently been here on earth on the other side have the best intel for the other side. Because although everyone in spirit is watching and observing and seeing what's going on, they're not physically present here in 3D. And one thing I can say from my NDE was the experience of being on the other side, even the way I remember my soul perceiving the human experience was different than how me talking to you right now perceives the human experience. It's very different. It's kind of like when you look at the rain outside, you can romanticize the idea of the rain and being in the rain and being soaking wet and cold and coming in from the rain and having hot cocoa by the fire. And you can romanticize it, right? And be like, beautiful. And then you can actually be in the freezing cold rain and how it feels torturous and how trying to warm up, you actually feel really sick and nauseous and you feel so uncomfortable and you're shivering and your teeth are chattering. And it is not comfortable. It is not romantic. You're actually just trying to hold your sanity, right? That's kind of this experience of this difference from the soul perspective sometimes to this perspective. Because I remember when I was on the other side, my joy and desire for human life was so big. And it doesn't mean I'm not joyful for human life here, but it is different. There is a weight to being in this human experience. It is different. And so when I communicate with spirit sometimes, and even sometimes when I feel like I'm arguing with them saying, you guys don't remember what it's like here. It is for that reason that some people that have crossed over are very involved with the other side, being the most accurate intel and current intel of what it really feels like on earth, because they remember it. They remember it very clearly, and they can help give examples, a voice to the things that are happening here. So when I saw it from that perspective, I thought, wow, isn't that impactful? Isn't that so impactful that some souls desired to cross over because their greater purpose was to be able to help humanity still, but from the other side? And so that's been really big. And that's brought me a lot of comfort too in moving through this experience and how it all works for people and why it is the way it is. So that's kind of the exit point potential. Now, I want to talk about one other piece in this exit point potential, though, that further can complicate it, but also make it really interesting. Is as much as I've noticed a lot of people exiting, and again, we can all see that from numbers of data from this experience of the pandemic, plus wars, plus the opioid crisis, lots of exiting on our planet. What's also happening, though, is we're seeing a higher occurrence of walk-ins. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with what walk-ins are, I have done a podcast on it, I believe. I will go back and look, and if I haven't, I will do one specifically. But a walk-in soul is different than a natal soul. So if we go back to the blueprint, when you are making your blueprint in your life, you are making your ideas of how you're going to come in, the experiences you want, the family you want, the lessons you wish to learn. And so the you that comes in, that is born into your body from a baby and grows through childhood, that's called the natal soul, okay? That is the soul that comes in and grows. Now, there are many connections, many contracts, soul contracts, in which a natal soul will bring the body and that soul itself to a certain level of experiences. And then when it has had when it has learned everything it needs to learn, it will then have an opportunity for exit, in which another soul, a walk-in soul, will come in and basically exchange. Now, this could sound really creepy to some people, but the reason why these walk-ins happen is because the experience of forgetting and growing from childhood into teenage years into being an adult is a lot on the soul. That's a huge experience. And some souls don't wish to go through that. They would be better suited to just walk into an already higher vibrating soul. So that's why an agreement will be made on the other side during the making of the blueprint to have a juncture point in which one soul will step out and one will step in. That usually comes from either, say, a car accident where somebody is then in a coma for a while. It can be through severe illness. There have been cases, though, where it happens it happens overnight when someone's asleep and they wake up and they have this soul braid. Now, before I go any further, I want to say that walk-in souls are not possessions. It is not a case of spirit possession. A walk-in soul situation, a handover of a body like that, can only happen when agreed upon before coming into this planet. It can't be taken over. It has to be a part of this contract. And so when that walk-in happens, sometimes it is an instant, one comes in, the other goes out. That's often when you have somebody, say, that wakes up from a coma and, say they only spoke one language before they wake up from the coma and they're speaking Spanish and they have memories of all these other family members and things. That's when it happens, and it's a jarring in and out, right? One leaves, one comes in. What mostly happens, though, what's more common, is for the two souls to kind of braid together for a while, and they'll actually kind of like walk hand in hand in the body. And I know that sounds, when our brains try to wrap themselves around that idea, it can sound overwhelming, but it's kind of this like merge or this fusion of two souls that kind of like take turns. And the reason why that is the natal soul will hang around for a little while to give the walk-in soul an opportunity to kind of get used to the lifestyle of the natal soul. It's like a gradual handoff. And that can usually last for about a year to 2 years, usually, until one soul then finally steps out. And that's a more gentle soul walk-in experience. And the reason why that's happening more often now too is there are many higher vibrating souls wishing to come into this planet to help it grow and ascend in the way in which we're going. But it was best suited for them to do so as a walk-in versus being the natal soul. So there's a lot of souls that agreed, like, I will be born into the body. I will carry this body up until, this age range, say 30s. And in that time, I will be ready and will allow this soul merge walk-in to happen. And so an event will take place where the walk-in soul will come in and then they will merge and blend for a little while, teach everything that's needed and take over, because the high vibratory rate of these walk-in souls is much higher than what many bodies are used to. So you'll also find people that are walk-ins tend to really change a lot of their life around. Big things start to happen. They eat differently, different friends, different ways of being. Doesn't mean everybody that changes and grows becomes a walk-in. That's not the case, but it's worth being said, because I have even noticed in readings, talking with different people, that there are more and more walk-ins happening now. And when I asked Spirit why, they said it's because it's one of the easiest ways to step in and help bring in higher vibratory energy into the collective of humanity. It's easier to have that done by a walk-in than natal souls. It helps it happen faster. So I thought that was really interesting. Now, another thing that we're seeing happening too, though, is for people that are choosing to stay through this experience and aren't slotted or agreed to have a walk-in, there are also many people right now having these juncture points in their soul journey where they're actually having more of a higher soul, higher self drop down. Okay, so we have people taking exit points, we have free will in that, we have walk-in souls, braids happening, but we also have higher self drop down events happening right now. And that's really this idea that different juncture points will trigger people to open up their consciousness more and more so that a big chunk of their higher self can come in. And so sometimes people can think that that's like a walk-in experience, but really it's only their higher soul stepping down more, giving more consciousness, more awareness of past lives, greater psychic abilities, say, higher understandings, whatever it may be. It's a higher infusion of their soul essence coming into play. And often that can happen through a crisis point, a massive change in their lifestyle. It can happen for some people through severe illness, through near-death experience. Many people, for example, who have experienced COVID and say got very close to that exit point could in fact have a higher soul drop down experience now. Others who got to that real juncture point as well with COVID could have a walk-in situation. Again, this higher influx of exits and also higher influx of potential or close call exits allows for all of these things to happen. It allows for more souls that have recently been here to be on this other side to help us out. It allows for more walk-ins of higher consciousness to happen. And it also allows for more drop-downs of higher soul consciousness to happen. Again, all of this happening to help bring up the frequency of humanity as a collective, because again, we are moving through this massive, quick-paced ascension process where 100 years worth of growth is happening in the span of 4 years. That's a big deal. And so it's happening in ways that are beyond our regular conscious knowledge. But it's quite fascinating when you get to see that behind the scenes thing of how intricately woven all of these things are. So what do you do about it? Basically, you do you. We can get so caught up in trying to figure out, am I close to an exit point? Is there a soul walk-in? Am I a soul walk-in? Am I a higher soul drop down? Am I this or this or this? Did this happen for this person? If you get stuck in that, you're getting stuck. It's about recognizing why you're here now, which you will find in your heart space. Recognizing that and then doing the things moving forward. All of these things have taken place so that we can gather together, collaborate together, and move forward, move humanity forward, move self forward, because as much as we are all growing and ascending for our personal journey, which is so, so important, we are also growing and ascending in a collective and now collaborative journey moving forward as humanity. So it's this really amazing blend of how everything happens all together, yet to you specifically, but also all together. And it's so connected even in the higher realms of like not even just planet Earth, but like the cosmos and the galaxies. Like there's movement on all levels. A ton of focus on humanity right now, which is a ton of focus on you. So the most important thing with all of these shifts and changes happening, all of these awarenesses coming into be, the changes on our planet, is to know who you are, to get to know who you are and be conscious in the choices you make moving forward, because you will then be making the most of the time that you have here. And remember that for those around you too. People are here to make the most of the time they have here to either help, grow, expand, innovate, whatever that may be. That's what's happening right now. And when it is our time to cross over, whether it be from a walk-in situation where your soul leaves and another one comes in, or from your actual exit potential where you cross over, you will carry on and you will look back at your life experience on Earth and be amazed at the degree of growth that you experienced, the lessons you learned, the wisdom you gained. And when we recognize that and make the most of our time here, when we hit that point on the other side, we just have such a greater love and awe for what this lifetime offered us. So I hope that helps kind of explain all of that. I know I kind of ran this big circle, but it all feeds back into itself. And if you guys have more questions about these things, please do ask, because I can highlight and dive in deeper to the greater or to the specificity of things. But I wanted to give you all this general idea of kind of what's going on, why we're seeing more death, why we're seeing these shifts and changes in people, and the variability in all of those pieces, but how they all connect back to helping humanity ascend. And I do want to say one last thing is you may be pretty amazed at some of the people that truly are helping on the other side. It has been amazing to see that some people that maybe weren't super involved in community or growth or politics or whatever on this side, once they have the opportunity to be on the other side, it is amazing what they are involved in helping humanity grow and change. So for those of you that have lost somebody significant through this whole experience the last several years, my heart absolutely goes out to you. But if I can leave you with this one thought, is to remember that they are not alone. They are not lost. And they are living a more expansive, understanding, clear view of what we are experiencing right now. And they are loved and they are held and they are with others on the other side, praying for us, holding us in their love and light and helping us grow and ascend. So if you remember that, the time in which you are apart from them right now may just become more bearable. And then the time in which you get to reunite with them will be this beautiful, glorious experience of the best hugs you could ever imagine. So I'll leave that with you guys. I hope that helps. You know, it's something to really think about as we move through this very changing year of 2022. It's an exciting year, has lots of changes to come though, but keep trying to see things from the higher perspective. The more we do that, the more we can stay in that higher fifth dimensional consciousness, and the more bearable these shifts and changes can be. So with everything else, you guys, I will leave you with that. Please do check out avalonspirit.com if you haven't already. As well, join me on the Avalon Spirit Facebook group page. There's lots of insights on there. I post on there every day. So if you want to interact with me a little bit more, check that out as well. And lastly, check out Spirit Coffee Talk. Happens every Friday on the Avalon Spirit Facebook or Avalon Spirit YouTube page. It's a great conversation between myself, Elise Catherine, and Lisa Richmond about a lot of the energies and things going on currently. So I hope to see you guys there. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you next week.